Good evening, everyone. Welcome to it's not June, it's July. Our July 15th, 2026 Larimer County Planning Commission meeting. As is our tradition, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us as you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. My name is Lisa Cholet, and I am currently the chair of the Larimer County Planning Commission. I am joined by my colleagues on the dais and also online tonight, who will each introduce themselves, give their time on the commission, and where they live in Larimer County. I will start to my right with Commissioner Weiss. That's you.
Good evening, I'm John Weiss. I live in Timnath, and I've been on the commission just over 2 years.
I'm Adam Eggleston. I live in Southeast Fort Collins, and I've been on the commission for about 2 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shelby King. I live in LaPorte, and I have been on the commission for a little over 3 years now.
Do we have Commissioner Slutsky and Commissioner Rowe online?
Hi, I'm John Slutsky. I live in Southeast Fort Collins. I've been on the commission since 2022.
Commissioner Rowe? No?
Commissioner Rowe, we're unable to hear you if you're speaking. It does look like you're unmuted, though.
Okay, well, maybe you guys can figure that out and we can come back to it if we're able. And again, like I said, my name is Lisa Cholet. I've been on the Planning Commission for a little over 3 years, and I live in Wellington. Now I'll turn it over to our planning manager, Ms. Axmaker, for instructions and introductions of staff for tonight.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Joining me at the dais, we have 2 members from our county attorney's office. We have Frank Haug and Christine Luckison. To my left, we have County Planner Justin Curry. To my right, we have our planning administrative staff member, Ryan Oswendell. Across the way at the staff table, we have our Community Development Director, Rebecca Everett, and then we have a contingent from our engineering department. We have Eric Tracy, Nicole Hahn, and Connor Sheldon. With that, please, we request that all members of the public silence their electronic devices. If you'd like a copy of the agenda and hearing procedures, you can grab one on the wall next to the door, or if you're joining us online, you can find that on our website at larimer.gov/BOCC/commissioners-meetings. We have utilized a sign-up sheet for public comment tonight, and time limits for public comment may be implemented by the chair. For each discussion item tonight, we will begin with a presentation from county staff, followed by a presentation from the applicant with time for any clarifying questions from the commissioners. There will be an opportunity for any members of the public to address the commission with their comments on the matter. Both the applicant and county staff will have an opportunity to respond to any questions or concern raised during public testimony, and then the commission will then ask any remaining questions of the applicant or staff before entering into deliberations and working towards a decision. During public comment, please wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Please make all comments to the commissioners from the podium. We do have a portable microphone available if needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide the spelling of your name if it's uncommon. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may hear you. The microphone on the podium can be repositioned to best capture your testimony. For those attending on Zoom, attendees will be muted until they're recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or request a consent item to be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. Upon request, we do have assisted listening devices available for the hearing impaired. Tonight, there's one item on the consent agenda and one item on the discussion agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Axmaker. Now I'll go through some additional information, including what is on our agenda today. On today's agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from our June 17th, 2026 meeting. We have one consent agenda item, which is the adoption of TCEF study and land use code amendments, file number 26-code 0291. And then we have an action item or a public hearing discussion item, which is LifeQuest Campus and Retreat Center Rezone, file number 25-zone 3797, which is continued from last month's meeting, with an addendum in addition to that. And then we also have board elections and staff updates. So with that, I'm going to go through a couple things and then we're going to kick this off. So typically items on our consent agenda are considered routine in nature, and as far as we know, there is no perceived or significant controversy. Items on the consent agenda will not have a staff presentation. The applicant will not get to speak, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment unless the item is pulled from the consent agenda and moved to a discussion item. Commissioners are able to pull an item from the consent agenda, and you, the public, can also request to pull an item. If that occurs, then we would have a presentation from staff, there's an opportunity for the applicant to make their case, and there's an opportunity for public comment. After that, the applicant and then the staff can make a rebuttal to the public comment. The commissioners can ask questions of the applicant and staff, and then we will enter into deliberations where we will make our best informed decisions. Thank you for listening, and with that in mind, let's go to the first agenda item, approval of the June 2026 meeting minutes. May I get a motion, please? Probably not.
No. I move that we approve the minutes from the June meeting.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Weiss,
Yes.
Slutsky,
Yes.
Rowe. Commissioner Rowe, we still can't hear you.
Commissioner Rowe, I believe you said you abstain. Can you shake your head to confirm that is in fact correct? Thank you.
Thank you. Eggleston,
Abstained.
King,
Yes.
Cholet.
Yes. Motion passes. Now let's move on to the consent agenda item. The item on the consent agenda is the adoption of the TCEF study and land use code amendments, file number 26-code 0291. Do any of my colleagues wish to remove this item from the consent agenda? I assume not online either. I can see Mr. Slutsky anyway. He's shaking his head. Okay. Does anyone in the audience here wish to remove this item from the consent agenda? If you do, please raise your hand and then make your way to the podium. Seeing none, do we have anyone online who wishes to remove it from the consent agenda?
If anyone online would like to remove this item, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. We have no hands raised.
Thank you. So then may I get a motion on the consent agenda, please?
I move that we accept the...
It's right there.
I
It's
get
on
to
the
read
screen
it?
for you.
Oh, thank you this time. I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the consent agenda to the Board of County Commissioners, subject to any conditions of approval as set out in the staff report.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Slutsky. Please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. Eggleston,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Yay!
Cholet.
Yes. The motion passes. I'm going to take a little privilege here as the chair. And Commissioner Rowe, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself now that we can hear you?
Yes. Yeah. Apologies for not being there in person. But yeah, my name is Patrick Rowe, and I have served on the commission for coming up on 5 years, and I live in Northwest Fort Collins. And I should also just take a moment to say that I will be recusing myself from this next item as I didn't participate in the last meeting where this is a continuation of that conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Rowe. And with that, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess so we can reset so that the commissioners that have to recuse themselves can leave the meeting. So we're in recess for 5 minutes and we'll come right back. All right, folks, we're going to go back into our Planning Commission hearing now. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. I do want to give everyone a quick reminder that any side conversations or anything, if y'all can take that out in the hall, because it can be, I can't necessarily hear you, but it can be hard for other people to hear and it gets picked up on the microphone. So with that, we're going to start with our one discussion item, the LifeQuest Campus and Retreat Center rezone, file number 25-zone 3797, continued from June 17th, 2026, with an addendum as well. So does staff have a presentation or anything they would like to say on this?
Good evening. Yes, I will be giving a brief overview of, I guess, our discussion, the presentation I gave last month. It won't be the full, discussion that we did before. So kind of, again, just a brief overview. And then when I'm done with mine, Ms. Assmaker also has the item to discuss on the addendum item that was added to the staff report or staff memo.
Perfect. Thank you.
So again, this is the emissaries of Divine Light rezone for the Planning Commission tonight, file number 25, zone 3797. Again, just brief over the vicinity map. So these parcels here, or these parcels in blue highlighted, are the proposed rezone. It's just south of the Masonville, and then west of the existing quarry here at the Atkins Park Stone Corp. Some site info. So the request is to rezone approximately 235 acres from O open to the Rural Plan Development, or RPD. The applicants are LifeQuest Global. The owners are emissaries of Divine Light. Again, the current zoning district is the O open zoning district, and they're proposing to do a rezone to RPD, which is a Rural Plan Development. Below are the existing accesses off of County Road 25 here to the west. And it's not located within a water or sewer district boundary. And then Loveland Fire is the fire protection agency where the property is located. And again, the lot size is approximately 235 acres. Little background. So the applicant is proposing a rezone to RPD, and the RPD district is intended to facilitate planned development outside of areas subject to a sub-area plan, such as LaPorte and the Red Feather Lakes, and established GMAs that allow greater flexibility than allowed by the strict application of the code in zoning districts. The applicant is proposing a large retreat center that includes detached single-family residential dwellings, independent apartment-style multifamily dwellings, resort-style lodging and cabins, workforce housing, a campus life center with restaurant and program spaces. I'll update that. Sorry, I believe that's still the case, but they are not doing the proposed in the amphitheater anymore. Apologize for that. And then a special events hall, and then Earth and Nature Learning Laboratory. So again, this is a little background on the referral agency comments. So comments were received from the following agencies, both internal with the county and our external referral agencies. Significant issues were raised by the City of Loveland Utilities Department and by the planning staff. The remaining referral agencies expressed no issues or concerns with the proposed rezoning, but did provide a series of recommendations, permitting requirements, and application expectations should the rezone be approved. So the major issues and concerns. The fundamental concern is that this rezoning request is a list of proposed uses do not align with the comprehensive plan or the surrounding area. The types of uses at the densities they're proposing, this is a project that would develop at urban levels with the associated infrastructure in place and given its location in the rural part of the county. Staff have concerns about the effect on the surrounding areas and believes that this exceeds the flexibility provided by the rural plan development process. Again, there are some neighboring properties such as Sunrise Ranch, Sylvandale Ranch, and the Eden Valley Institute. They have similar uses such as retreats. There's a wellness center, school, and some residential structures and lots. But these uses were established prior to the county land use code and are not at the same density or intensity levels that are being proposed by the applicant. And then based on a comprehensive plan framework, category of mountain foothills, a large portion of the proposed uses provided by the applicant would not be permitted in this framework category. One of the neighboring properties, as I mentioned, is the City of Loveland Utilities. They have significant concerns with their proposed uses and densities. One of their primary drinking water reservoirs is located directly south of the subject property, and then below is a summary of some of their concerns related to the potential contamination in the reservoir. And they also provided some additional information that was included as an addendum to this hearing about their response to the environmental report, if you will, provided by the applicant. And then the recommendation is still the same. So the Development Service Teams has concerns with the proposed rezoning to RPD and concludes that the request does not meet the requirements of the Larimer County Land Use Code or the Comprehensive Plan. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of County Commissioners denial of the emissaries of the Divine Light rezone file 25 zone 3797 based on the findings outlined in the staff report. And then, as mentioned, Ms. Assmaker has some comments on the red line memo, staff memo.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. I just want to talk about a couple things based on some confusion, some potential confusion that I observed in the last meeting, so I want to clarify. The comprehensive plan designation for this property is Mountain and Foothills. It is not designated as a rural center, and its land use designation cannot be changed as part of this application. What's before you tonight is a request to rezone. The comp plan is not a regulatory document like the land use code. The Planning Commission can choose to disregard it. However, in the Land Use Code, where it establishes the role of the Planning Commission, it states that the comprehensive plan should be included in your review. The current comp plan was adopted in 2019 after conducting public outreach and represents the community's desired future land uses for the county. We provided you a staff memo as part of the addendum tonight. And it included some information on the number of residential units that could be permitted under the current zoning, which is O open. In limited cases, single unit attached development would be permissible, but no multifamily development would be allowed. The comp plan designation also suggests that residential development at a density less than 35 acres should be discouraged. This would seem to limit the desired development to single unit detached homes. There were questions in the last meeting about staff's position on what the applicant is, I believe, referring to as the TST report on the potential impacts to the Loveland Reservoir. Comments were included in the memo. In general, county staff would like to note that there are different standards for stormwater and drinking water, and that water quality is normally reviewed at a later stage in the development review process when more detailed information is available. And lastly, I would just like to say that staff agrees with the applicant that this is a very innovative and unique development, but staff finds this is not the proper location in the county for said development, and that is why we are recommending denial.
Thank you both. Okay, now the applicant will have 10 minutes to present new information or a summary of the last one, but I would ask you to limit your presentation this time to 10 minutes, please.
Madam Chair, well, members of the commission, my name is Claire Havelda, legal counsel for LifeQuest Colorado. Before I get started, I do have just very small housekeeping. We understood that we would not have the same amount of time. I would ask for an additional 2, so probably 12 minutes if the chair would entertain that, just so I don't have to speak like an auctioneer.
I would say try to keep it at 10.
Yes, ma'am.
I will give you
Yes.
leeway if you're wrapping up, if that makes sense.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's all we can ask for. We also provided the county with PDF versions of the slides and the boards that you have here so that they could more easily be integrated into the record. So I'd ask that those be entered into the record at this time.
Okay. Yeah. If you submitted it, they're on the record. How's that?
Thank you. We also brought the Loveland Water Storage Dam Feasibility Study of 2021 that I would like to enter into the record as well. There are copies for staff and each of you, and we have also emailed them so that you would have that in an electronic version.
We received them during the break, so thank you.
So thank you, Madam Chair, for indulging me. I am ready when you are.
Go right ahead.
So as was mentioned, we are here seeking your recommendation of approval for a rezoning of 25 Zone 3797 to a rural plan development, which we will refer to as an RPD. Since last we were here, we were able to meet with Larimer County staff. We had hoped to discuss the concerns related to the water analysis and what proposed uses specifically were problematic for the county. When we got there, we were told the water engineers had not been invited to the meeting, and we were unable to speak with them. I do see that they're here this evening, so perhaps if they bring up matters, we could have a chance to respond. The county also informed us they had written their staff report and would not be revising it, which now has been revised, and I do want to acknowledge that I received that full packet yesterday. I want to talk about the comp plan, and I appreciate staff has acknowledged that the comp plan is not a regulatory document, but I want to clarify for the record that the report still contains legal errors related to it. The staff report claims that rezoning is, quote, not consistent with prior land use approvals. The comp plan is not a prior land use approval. Referring to it as such again puts it in the regulatory bucket. So requiring rezone alignment with the framework map in the comp plan is not a code criteria upon which you can base your decision. I also want to be clear for the record that under Colorado Revised Statute 3028-1063A, the comp plan is advisory, not regulatory, and this has been upheld by the Colorado Supreme Court in Theobald versus the Board of County Commissioners of Summit County, and they have an important statement in that case law that says that the comp plan not only is not binding upon you all, but when it comes to zoning discretion, you have that discretion as the legislative body. So setting aside the comp plan pieces, I want to talk specifically about the framework map. We believe the property is more accurately identified as a rural center, in which case all the uses would be allowed. However, even conceding or considering that the mountain foothills category is appropriate, as staff agrees, if you look at page 58 of your comp plan, it approves resort uses. I want to reiterate that all the housing and lodging here is in support of the LifeQuest campus resort. It would not exist but for the campus. It is not a standalone subdivision as is discouraged in the comp plan, nor will it be subdivided. It is a campus resort. Therefore, even assuming mountain foothills is appropriate designation, we meet that definition in the comp plan. I don't have time to go through all of these, but I'm going to give you a list of places that we truly embody your comp plan. C68, C69, H33, E35, HS16, H12, and H16. Now I want to talk about our meeting with Loveland, who again is not a decision maker for this rezoning. They did not engage in any analysis review in the meeting, and they stated they were objecting on the basis of proximity, and they would sue us if the application was approved. Instead of discussing the TST report at that meeting, again, at the 11th hour, they're sending you a flawed analysis that we haven't had a chance to respond to. They didn't even copy us on that letter. And I would reiterate what staff said, that the timing to really get into the heart and soul of whether the water works is at the site development plan process, not at the rezoning phase. I would also note that the staff report number 3 references the City of Loveland's objection as a regulatory criteria, and this isn't correct. Loveland's own source water protection study that they reference, section 1.1, denotes that it's advisory, not regulatory, and I would posit that they misrepresent the content of Colorado Revised Statute 3115-7071B and their authority thereunder. I'm going to ask the TST team to come up and describe what happened at the meeting, but it begs the question, why? Why won't Loveland engage with us with this analysis? And so I want to bring to your attention the fact that Loveland intends to expand the Green Ridge Reservoir, something they have failed to mention to you in all their objections. You have the study in front of you that supports that. Page 31, you will see that the expansion directly impacts the applicant's land that we are seeking to rezone. The probable cost documented in the report to Loveland for this project is an estimated $3 million with a per foot acre cost of $6,200. Do you know what makes that far more expensive? If you approve the rezoning to RPD and they are condemning RPD land and not open land. But most importantly, I think it's an incredibly dangerous precedent to set, allowing Loveland to override your authority in land use matters and cut off any opportunity you would have to approve an RPD within miles of their reservoir. What this comes down to is compliance with your code. And we have discussed, and I won't reiterate, how we meet 661D1 through 5. But the heart of this is the purpose of the RPD. And the purpose of the RPD is to allow greater flexibility than strict zone district application in exchange for more creative and innovative designs, higher levels of public benefits than would otherwise be possible in the current zone district. This project is what the RPD was created for. You have had very little opportunity to take advantage of a true RPD. We looked at what has been previously approved as RPDs. There's only 2 since your code was adopted. One was a daycare, which is wonderful. One allowed for indoor and outdoor storage. You have an opportunity here to utilize the RPD exactly as it was intended. The creative use that provides more public benefits, economic, housing, workforce, tourism, than anything you've had the opportunity to recommend so far. I urge you not to miss this opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Don Toronto. I'm with TST Consulting Engineers. And I'd like to just briefly talk about the City of Loveland's correspondence with us. The City of Loveland's position essentially is that because the property is near the reservoir, no additional risk can be accepted. The right question is not whether all the risks can be eliminated, but whether or not the project can protect water quality and satisfy the county's technical standards through design, mitigation, monitoring, and enforceable long-term maintenance. No land use operates without risk. No, not agriculture, roadways, septic systems, existing development, public utilities. If proximity alone were sufficient to preclude development, virtually any development near drinking water source would be prohibited. Yet drinking water sources such as Grand Lake, Lake Estes, Carter Lake, Horsetooth, Boyd Lake coexist with development and recreational activities. Loveland's source water protection plan is not regulatory. The plan expressly states that it is a planning document, that there are no legal requirements to impact its recommendations. It does not prohibit development nor give Loveland the authority over Larimer County's zoning decisions. Loveland has not disproved the core technical findings of the report that we provided. It does not dispute watershed area calculations, and it acknowledges that properly designed BMPs can reduce pollutant loading. Its response is particularly that because proximity it is unwilling to accept any additional risk. The TST report concludes that the project impacts are de minimis. It also concludes that post-development phosphorus loadings can be lower than existing conditions. By contrast, the RPD can include conditions of approval requiring BMPs, coordination with Loveland, appropriate mitigation monitoring. The evidence supports a low, manageable, conditional risk, not denial based solely on proximity.
I'm Ed Goodman, and I was the principal designer of the project and am representing LifeQuest Colorado. I believe this is a magnificent multi-dimensional project. It fits perfectly with your RPD process. It's creative, it's innovative. It does provide public amenities and benefits that far exceed what could take place normally in a place like this. It has strong public support from a wide variety of people. There's a board here that shows all the categories of folks who have participated in providing support for this project, from local, regional, national, even international voices. The staff of Congressman Joe Neguse joined me on site yesterday for a site visit and said they think it's a remarkable project and they would love to help us at the federal level and potentially be there on the first day when it opens. This is a place that's a living laboratory for human flourishing and human potential. I have just a few seconds.
That's fine. Keep going.
People and organizations will come here to explore their dreams or tackle their challenges. They'll discover new pathways to move forward and exciting new ways to create transformational opportunities. In other words, to find their way forward in a disruptive, challenging world. Or simply immerse themselves in nature's beauty on the site. The benefits are significant to the county, including economics. The visionary projects like this, they just don't come along very often. You rarely see something like this. It's a wonderful opportunity to create a gem for Larimer County. I believe your role here is to shepherd the vision of the people of Larimer County, to steward opportunities that match the county's strategic plan as well as the comp plan. The RPD was created specifically for projects like this, and we believe, I certainly believe, we're a really good match for this. I would please ask you to vote yes for this rezone. I ask you to embrace the vision you see here, to leave a positive legacy for the people of the county. I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we'll realize there's no downside to a project like this in this location. There just simply isn't a downside. And we all know that we would welcome an upside. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. So, do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Weiss? And I would just note, Commissioner Slutsky, if you'll just raise your hand or holler when you have a question or something to say, that would be great.
Let me first say that I'm not really going to get into the water issue since it's not a main focus and the parties haven't talked to each other, best I can determine. But I do want to talk a little bit about, at the last meeting, I asked the question that we have an event center. Associated with that event center will be some form of lodging, which I believe was described as like apartment type settings. And I asked the question whether or not they were going to be individually owned or rented out. And I was told they were going to be rented out. So I'm having a difficult time with the concept of why do we need to have these rented elements in this overall project. I realize that, yes, if you come here, you're going to need a place to stay. Maybe not. You could find someplace in town. So my first question is, explain to me why these so-called rented units are so crucial to this development.
Okay, I'll try to do that. Thank you for the question. There are three kinds of accommodations, if you will, that are necessary, I believe, for this resort campus. The first is lodging for all the guests who will come. So we'll have guests coming to do these life design, health and wellness programs, that kind of thing. Corporate companies who will come to reinvent their future, that kind of thing. They'll need a place to stay. So there's some lodging for them. We have some workforce housing for our staff. Workforce housing is hard to find around here. And we would really like to provide workforce housing for something like 25% of our workforce if we can. So there's workforce housing on site. And then lastly, we're trying to create a living laboratory here for how people can thrive into the future. It's a Blue Zone inspired concept where people age gracefully in a very connected way with their communities, with each other, with health and wellness, those kinds of principles. And so this is a model community for that on-site in the campus. It's one of our major projects, is to create a Blue Zone oriented campus community where people can actually live in this environment and work and volunteer and take part in the programs, and further to create this experiment of building some of the very first lifelong communities. We think it can be a model for the future for other parts of the United States. So it really is a living laboratory feeling, and so we need some residents that will be part of this living lab that'll be coming here specifically for that purpose. We'll need some lodging for our guests, and we'd like to have some workforce housing.
So can you give me an approximation of how many of the proposed units would be more apartment and for living there for however long?
Yeah, I think Matt has those numbers. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. So the folks that Ed was talking about for the workforce, we have like 23 to 52 units. For the living laboratory area, we have 140 units. Those are like 1 and 2 bedrooms. And then we have some detached, and those are all in one building. And then there's detached units of up to 65 detached units they're kind of illustrated on a couple of those graphics there. But there's 30 to 65 of those, depending on how the project expands. And then from a lodging perspective, we've got some cottages that are separate from the actual lodge. There's 10 to 15 of those. And then from the lodge itself, there's 80 to 100 lodge rooms.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, no, I'm not done. Sorry.
No, I didn't have to go right ahead. Keep going.
Okay. Let me just ask the fundamental question to the applicant. Is there any possibility of doing away or significantly reducing, and I'm more focused on the so-called rented units, because I realize, yes, you might have lodging for some visitors. I can understand that, even for some of the workforce, but is there any significant reduction on the rented space that might be? You can think about it. I'll go to my next question while you think about it. If I understood the reports, and I'm not sure whose I was reading at the time, it was suggested that both sanitation and potable water would be combined with the Sunrise Ranch. And I'm curious why the combination and why not a standalone system for this development.
Sure. With utility systems, there's always an economy of scale. So we want to incorporate this so that we can expand it and only have one that provides for the entire area. It's just more efficient.
Are the two sites, both Sunrise and this proposed one, are they linked in the sense that they're either owned by the same entity, or what's the relationship, if any?
The property is immediately adjacent to, and the property owners are similar.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, I understand in last week's applicant talked about the benefits to the public. I guess what you foresee as benefits, I don't necessarily see long-term benefits. I see some short-term, you're going to build it, so yes, you're going to increase jobs. And I asked the question as to whether or not the general public could use the facility. I was told under certain conditions, yes, they could use it apparently at no cost. Others, they would have to pay. There would be some kind of charge associated with that, which would be fair. But I still really haven't heard what the long-term benefit to the county is. I don't care about Northern Colorado. You have to tell me what the benefit is to Larimer County on the long term, whatever you want to define as the long term, but it's got to be more than a year.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We expect this campus to provide ongoing programming throughout the entire year. So this won't be like a seasonal kind of place like you might think about like YMCA of the Rockies or something. There'll be programs all year. Guests will be coming from the outside the region to come to this place to participate in these programs. The public from here is also able to participate in those programs. There could be programs on life design, on health, on longevity, on reinventing your company, all kinds of things, happiness, nature, arts, the arts. So there's all kinds of programming that's built into this project that is a benefit to the public. Educational programming for kids, collaborations with Colorado State University, with the public school system, with other programs to bring people to the site. There'll be special days where this will be more open, even more to the public and folks. But anyone's welcome to come and enjoy these facilities. There'll be certain costs for some things. If you come to the restaurant, certainly you'll have to pay to eat. If you come and enjoy a health and wellness lab, program here, then certainly there'll be some cost for that. But it'll be a benefit because there's nothing like this here. There'll be tax benefits for Larimer County that will go on forever. There'll be taxes coming your way in a significant amount. One of our gentlemen might be able to inform you on that. We're doing feasibility studies on that right now, but it's significant taxes. Jobs, we're talking about 150 permanent high-paying jobs on the campus. Workforce housing is a big thing in this area, and having this model community, this laboratory where all the programming is built in to this residential neighborhood will allow seniors and people over 55 to have a new place to go and be that's way potentially less costly than some facilities that exist today. So I think there's tremendous benefits. There's benefits to the ecosystem. There's, certainly large-scale economic benefit to this project. Estimated annual revenues are significant, and taxes will be significant. And it's a big payroll for the workforce, and great programs in collaboration with the institutions around here. I don't know if that helps, but
It helps. Thank you. I thought of one quick question, then I'll be done. Since you're proposing to share some of the infrastructure with Sunrise, the question I have is there any plan for both entities to kind of do joint projects or do more joint type of things?
certainly we'd love, we expect there'll be some collaborations for sure, for certain. They run programs now, and people come from all over the world to their site for programs. This will have a different set of programs, but there could certainly be some collaboration there, and certainly we're going to share in several things. In the nature side, there's trails that will be interconnected that people will be allowed to use. There's the sewer and water infrastructure that you mentioned. There's also, we're talking a lot about how to increase the amount of organically grown food that takes place out there. They have several large greenhouses. We'd like to see that even expanded, and we'd like to grow even more food for this community. And so I think there'll be a lot of ways that we'll collaborate.
Okay, good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Commissioner King.
I think that may be true with Eden Valley Institute as well. I've done a fair amount of work with the Blue Zones folks and with Adventist Health over the years, and that's an Adventist Health facility, and I think they'd be very receptive to the Valley becoming more of a Blue Zone.
Okay. Commissioner King.
I have a couple questions. The first one is, did I understand correctly that you were saying when you were giving your presentation that the reason for the addition of this packet is to show us that the city of Loveland is planning to expand Green Ridge Glade Reservoir, and that if the rezoning happens, that it will be more expensive for them to condemn the land that they want to flood if we do this?
So I think it's a nuanced conversation. I don't mean to infer nefarious intent by the city of Loveland, but I think you need to understand that there is more politics at play here than what they have brought to your attention. And so, yes.
Well, but that's kind of saying, I mean, you just kind of contradicted yourself, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you are suggesting that there's some sort of not, like they are not telling us the real reason why that they're claiming that the reason they don't want this development is because it could pollute the water. And I believe that your claim by bringing this and saying that is that, well, you said that that it has to do with money, not safety. So I think that if you want to backtrack and say that's not what you meant, that's one thing, but it is what you said.
What I'm clearly saying is that there is more to the story that Loveland did not bring to you. And I have been on both sides of condemnation, both on the government side and on the private entity side, and it is not disputed that if they come and they need Sunrise Ranch land and it is open zoning, that is one price. If it is RPD and it is developed, that is exponentially more expensive for them.
Understood. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And my other question is for staff, which is just a thing that concerned me the first time around is that if we change the zoning for this particular project, then it changes the zoning for good and other project, or for good, I don't, forever, I mean to say, not for good or for bad. And so I wonder, would we be able to conditionally change the zoning for this particular project, and then if they were unable to get the site development approved, it would revert back to open?
That's creative.
Thank you for your question. Just so I understand, the question is, could you conditionally approve a rezone, assuming that this project goes forward, and then if it didn't, it would revert back to the zone that it is now?
Yeah, and maybe you could do either like if it changes ownership or for a different, I don't know what the legal way would be, but or for a certain amount of time, like if they couldn't get it approved within 5 years, then they have to come back, or is there anything like that? So that it wouldn't, my concern being that if they didn't get this approved, but the zoning was different, then we have opened the door for something worse, or theoretically.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is when you rezone something, and the rezone is what's before the board now, so it's sort of hard to speculate about what could be used in the future because you don't know, right? The purpose of a rezone is to analyze this application under the criteria, and especially with an RPD, you have to look at the sort of proposed kind of zoning that they're asking for in relation to the criteria on there. I don't think you can condition it and have it revert. Now, that being said, you could rezone it later. I mean, you can go through a whole other application to rezone it at some point in the future. People rezone stuff multiple times if they want to, but you'd have to go through a process. I don't think you could automatically just set up like if it doesn't work out, we'll just go back to what it was. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question.
It did. Thanks.
Commissioner Slutsky, do you have any questions?
There we go. Yeah, I do. And it has to do more, well, it has to do with the water treatment plant and the proximity to the reservoir and risk. And I know that that y'all are saying that risk can be mitigated with good BMPs and management, and I appreciate that, and I believe that. But I'm in my mind when I look at this, and it's the treatment plant is right. It might as well be right on the reservoir border. It is a football field away. It's close. And in my mind, I keep thinking of 2013. And I don't know if you all ever talked about September 2013, but there was a pretty good rainstorm and massive flooding. The Big Thompson River went right through the middle of Loveland. The town had years to rebuild, and you're discharging into the Big Thompson River. And so I would like you to address that. And then is Loveland going to present as well? We have a chance to talk with him.
Commissioner Slutsky, let me address that. Loveland can participate as an adjacent property owner and provide public comment, but they will not be making any separate presentations.
But I can ask him questions.
No, we generally,
Is that?
Frank or Christine, do we?
Generally with public comment, we just have the public commenters make public comment and you hear what they have to say. We don't usually ask questions of the public commenters.
Usually it doesn't mean I can't. Is that correct?
The issue is if you start, I mean, it's up to the board. The board can decide what they want to do. The problem is if you start doing that, you have to open up that to everybody. So you're not prohibited from asking them questions, but it creates sort of issues because then you have to make sure that the applicant has a rebuttal response to whatever you ask the public commenter.
And Commissioner Slutsky, I would just add that, I mean, they're both a neighboring property owner and they had, we obviously sent it out as a referral agency at one point because they're the city of Loveland, just like we would any municipality, right? But we don't ever have those people who give us their referral comments sitting in in one of these hearings where we're able to ask them questions because
that's fine. That's fine, Chair.
Okay.
I can work around that. I can ask staff, and then in their public comment, Lovely can answer. Is that a fair workaround?
I think that's probably a pretty fair workaround, Mr. Slutsky.
So let's start with the Big Thompson River and the drainage from the water treatment plant and a catastrophic flood. If someone could talk to me about that.
Like what would happen? Is that what your question is, Mr. Slutsky?
Mm-hmm. That is my question.
Okay. And do you have any other questions right now?
Well, I would ask.
Maybe just one quick answer to your question about discharging to the Big Thompson River. So discharge from this project would have to go north through that canyon over to the Buckhorn and then down the Buckhorn approximately 5 miles or so before it gets to Big Thompson. So we're nowhere close to the Big Thompson River, honestly. It's pretty far. You can see the big green line there. It's a long way. Discharge from here goes a long way before it gets to the Big Thompson.
So you're saying
and that's very little discharge. That's only the wastewater effluent component.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I hear you saying it's not an issue, and I'm just want to be clear. There's not a chance that the Big Thompson can overflow its banks and enter Loveland.
Can you state that question one more time?
In a flood, say a 500-year flood, the Big Thompson overflows its banks. It's done that in the last 10 years.
Yep.
13 years. And that water did go into the town of Loveland.
Yes. This project, while it has storm drainage that can be tributary, it would be very minor. It would have to go through the city of Loveland's reservoir and get around that reservoir to get to the Big Thompson River. So there's not a flood event from this project that would impact the Big Thompson River.
Did you just say it would go into the reservoir?
the storm drainage from half of this development, storm drainage goes south and ultimately would get to the reservoir. The storm drainage, which we would have an engineered solution for both the quantity and the quality of that storm drainage.
I'm not sure when you say storm drainage, that's not from
That's
the
rain.
wastewater treatment. Yes.
Rain.
It's runoff.
Runoff.
Yeah, you should say runoff.
Okay, runoff.
Okay. So my question to staff is elevations. The reservoir is situated higher than the wastewater treatment plant and the area around it?
No, excuse me, I think I can answer that. The wastewater treatment plant discharges to the north, so
No, I'm not talking about discharge.
okay.
In a catastrophic storm, I don't know if you saw the pictures of say, Evans after the storm where it just inundated the plant, and it wasn't their discharge, it was just the plant being overrun.
Yeah, well, this particular, where this plant is, it's not really tributary to, for sure, the Big Thompson River or literally any other large storm drainage basin. And if it was, it discharges and the water would go north of the project, just like that green line that we're looking at shows.
Mm-hmm. But the drainage is to the south. I mean, that river is going south. And I would assume that
What river?
the area, the Big Thompson.
Yeah, the Big Thompson's all the way south. Okay, so that green line is not the Big Thompson River. That's the Buckhorn and everything that ultimately gets to the Big Thompson, which is all the way at the south end or bottom of that picture you're looking at.
So my question is, very simply, is the elevation of the wastewater treatment plant higher or lower than the reservoir?
It's higher.
Okay. So runoff would be higher.
Runoff does not go towards the reservoir. It's higher, but all the runoff goes to the north because the wastewater plant is on the other side of, I'm going to say, the divide or the topography of the project. The project has kind of a ridge in the middle of it. Half of the project flows south, a little more than half of the project flows north. The wastewater treatment plant is on the north side of all of that, so all of it goes north.
Okay. I wonder if maybe engineering could confirm that.
Yeah, so just quick clarification. I think we seem to be using wastewater effluent discharge and stormwater discharge, maybe mix and matching those. So I just want to clarify, separate those. So the stormwater discharge, from part of their property runs down into the Loveland drinking water reservoir. They can design BMPs and best management practices to treat that stormwater in the event of a large flood event you seem to be asking about. A lot of those measures overtop. That's how engineering stormwater quality is handled. Again, I would like to separate that drinking water quality, which Leah Schneider from the health department has provided some information in the staff memo. That's handled at a bit of a higher level at the state level, as well as by our health department. And so those have measures that go above and beyond what's required by our Larimer County stormwater design standards. So they would design best management practices, a lot of which are listed at a very conceptual level in their technical memo, that would then drain into the reservoir. A lot of those would overtop in the event of a large flood. That's typical stormwater practice. Now, how the drinking water would be handled, we would need to evaluate that. The health department would evaluate that. So, again, and all these things would be evaluated in a lot more detail once we got to a technical review. We haven't completed a full technical review because this is just the rezoning phase.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple questions and then we will open it up for public comment after that. So they're kind of a little bit all over the place, but since we were talking about water, one in the addendum or the staff report, or I'm not even sure which thing I was reading today at this point, but I think I'm a little concerned or confused. So last month you talked about the water and wastewater treatment running in conjunction with Sunrise. My understanding is Sunrise has not fully built out from its master plan. And so I'm wondering how you're mitigating that with your adjacent neighbor if you're partnering with this facility based on the numbers you gave tonight in terms of people who are living on site as part of the program, your workforce housing, your resort, all of that usage and the demand that will bring, plus visitors, people that are coming from classes, just everything that you've described about this community hits me as a high demand. And Sunrise already has an approved master plan that they could build out. Y'all are similar, but then not the same, if I'm understanding what you said earlier, correct? And so, but the one thing you have in common is critical infrastructure, which is a part of the rezone consideration.
Sure. So as far as the wastewater plant, let's talk about it first. It is already over-designed, if you will. It has enough capacity to handle the new project with just a few minor modifications to it.
Explain minor modifications.
Well, that's not what I do for a living, but there's going to be a little bit of enhancements to some of the intake and to some of the exterior of it before it gets released. So just more safety, a little bit more capacity, a little easier to maintain and keep current all the time. So we're going to make minor adjustments, but it's a very good new plant. So it's able to do a very good job. And we'll be able to add on to that just enough to make this all work without very much detail. On the drinking water supply side, we will be building a new drinking water treatment plant, a potable drinking plant for the whole group. So we'll replace the existing one to provide the adequate capacity. And as part of that new drinking water plant, we'll also be building a large storage tank on the Foothill Hill in order to provide safety volume for the drinking water and also mostly for fire protection so that we can have fire protection for the valley. Because right now there's not, as significant of a fire protection as we would like to see. So we're going to try to provide fire protection for both communities by building this larger storage tank on the hill. So it's all part of an engineered system that will happen during the design phase. So we've done the preliminary analysis and it all seems to work. And Sunrise Ranch has the appropriate amount of water rights through the Colorado Big Thompson project. They have excess water rights that makes this feasible. And so we're going to work together with them and help them have an even better system. And we'll have a system. And as Don Toronto from TST said, it will be more efficient to have those into one place and manage those effectively.
So can you explain the relationship of the two to me? Because presume I know nothing because I don't have any idea, right? And so everything that you're describing to me to meet the infrastructure requirement of this rezone is dependent on an entirely different entity who at any time could say, no, there's no letter that says, yes, we're doing this. Yes, we have this agreement. Yes, we're going to do all this stuff. So explain the relationship to me, please.
So I'll try to explain as best I can. And a lot of things are coming around to this. So the entire valley that we're talking about, our rezoning piece, and across the street to the west, the existing Sunrise Ranch, is all owned currently by Sunrise Ranch. and it's been owned since 1945, I think it was. So that's all one. So technically, Sunrise Ranch is the land applicant because they are the owner, right, of this park. So a development agreement will be crafted between the new development group and Sunrise Ranch. Frankly, and I don't mean this in any negative way, a project of this scale and innovation is something that will require outside investment to come in. And so a development agreement will be worked together with them to manage the infrastructure, to talk about, all the land and water sharing, that whole thing. So that's all will take place. None of that can be finalized without a zoning approval.
I understand that, but
Right? No one's going to make that leap till this is possible, right? Until this is possible.
well, and so to my previous question, last month, there was a point made about, I knew that Sunrise owned both properties, but there was a point made that sale or that transfer of that property to this different group would happen before any of this happened. So this different group, are you saying that the ownership of this property will be sold to this development group, or will Sunrise still own an interest in it?
Well, that's to be determined. That's honestly to be determined because it likely will be some combination. And because there is land, there is water, there's infrastructure, there's some combination of things that will take place, whatever is most beneficial to the project, frankly. So there's things to be worked out, but we've had nothing but very good collaboration with them. They're very much supporters of this project. The whole project came out of their vision. I worked with them for months to develop the concepts that they felt would be the perfect complement to where their campus is and would align with their core principles of taking care of nature and the environment and not destroying the valley, keeping as much open space, like 70% open space that we have, clustering things so we can preserve the view sheds and all of that. We worked together with them so closely over all this time, and they've been just wonderful partners to work with. And they have invested a lot of money to get us here. And
I understand.
A lot of time and effort. And so they're a fantastic partner, but there will be a development agreement put together between us to figure out, the most beneficial way. We would love to have them stay involved in some way because they're wonderful people. And
I appreciate
have been
that.
here a really long time. Our job is not to try to come and, make that project go away.
No, and I get that. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to try to ask you to just maybe answer just directly what I'm talking about. I get it. You're very excited about what you're trying to do here. For me, the concern is if I own property and I'm next to North Pewter Irrigation Company and they say, oh, well, we'll give you all the water and all of that. If without a letter that says, yes, we're committed to doing this, I have to basically assume that no one's going to get mad at anyone. And yes, you will indeed have water and wastewater.
I think.
Right. And
David,
let me finish, sir. Let me finish, sir, please.
Sorry.
My job as a planning commissioner is one of the criteria is to determine if there is adequate infrastructure. And that's what I'm trying to do. Not to judge anything about who owns what or the vision, but to judge whether or not there's adequate infrastructure. And so to that point, you're saying that you're going to make some tweaks to the wastewater or the water treatment system or the wastewater. With the full development of Sunrise and the full development of what you're trying to do, is that treatment center of a capacity to serve both?
Yes, it can be easily expanded to serve both.
Okay, but that means it's not currently. Expanded is not easy and it's very expensive, but...
We would have to run the numbers, but it's very close right now. Yeah.
Okay.
David could answer that question. He's here from Sunrise Ranch. He's the head of Sunrise Ranch. He could answer that if you'd like.
In consideration of, I'm looking at it from a wastewater and a water treatment facility. Does it have the proper infrastructure to meet a master development plan that's already been approved along with what you're trying to do?
Yes, we would ensure that's true.
Okay. Can we talk about wildfire for a second? You mentioned again about the storage water and all of that. I'm trying to understand how this project doesn't increase wildfire risk in an area that is easily susceptible, and potentially this creates a higher risk. I don't know if anybody wants, there's obviously going to be build out, but ultimately you're asking us to rezone from something that typically requires a maximum of one dwelling unit for 35 acres to somewhere between 1 to 4 dwelling units per acre. That is a significant change on county roads that currently have less than 500 vehicle trips a day, and this is going to almost quadruple that as well based on your own report findings. I'm not really seeing the public benefit here. I see a lot of risk.
I'll try to answer that. There is a City of Loveland fire station within 4 miles of here. It's actually located at the intersection of 34 and 27, I believe. Mm-hmm. And there's always already a population of folks that live in the valley here, between Eden Valley, the Eden Valley Institute. There's, I think I've counted 35 houses out there, and then also dormitories, as well as Sunrise Ranch community, which has, I don't know the number, but a few dozen homes out there. We're adding more density, yes. We're also adding fire precaution safety. So we've got the tank, 400,000 gallon water tank with potable water that runs to all the hydrants, and it will be pressurized, so it will, and all the major buildings will be sprinklered. So from a fire protection perspective of the actual structures, they're protected. And then with the added fire hydrants and other things, there's additional fire protection for the community itself. I understand wildfires, they kind of run where they run, but this is a pretty developed area as it is, and so we're adding to a developed area. There is obviously more density there, but it's at the same time, it's already going to be protected, and it's already seeing some of those things, and we're adding more infrastructure to help protect that. That's our opinion of it. So,
okay, thank you. Let's see. So, on the community benefit, this is my last question for the time being. One of the provisions for this is community need or public benefit. And last meeting, you provided us with the housing needs assessment and the other housing brochure. I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head, and made the argument that this was meeting a need that Larimer County has currently identified in terms of affordable housing, senior housing, workforce housing. And today you've described this as a resort where people that work at the resort can live there with some housing for other people who choose to live there, including seniors. And I'm trying to understand, based on this project, is it a resort with economic development, or is it something that's meeting the housing needs? Because it occurs to me that everyone that will be living there, because it's all rental units, no opportunity to own workforce housing, everyone will be a part of this program, your living community and everything. So it only provides opportunity for those people who choose to be here to work there, or whatever, not necessarily the teacher, the deputy, the firefighter who works in Loveland.
I think the things aren't mutually exclusive. The housing supports the campus. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. There is no criteria for who can live there. I think when you talk about senior housing, that's a critical need in your community, as is workforce housing. So I do think those are incredible public benefits. I think it's an integrated project. We're not just slapping up housing and saying we want a subdivision out here. It is an integrated project. And there is no restriction. If you want to be a teacher that comes and rents, you can do that. Yes.
Okay, but the argument to me was made to me last month that this would reduce impacts in terms of road of driving and all of that. But then also at the same time saying you wouldn't need to leave, you could have things delivered, different things like that. So I'm trying to understand, because the traffic part of that would almost quadruple the current traffic on these county roads. So I'm trying to make sense of the vision, which I don't have a problem with the idea of what you're trying to do.
Sure.
But matching it to where you're trying to do it and how you're saying you meet the rezone requirements for a very unique thing. And RPD is very unique. And that means you're also designating your own density and zoning and all of that, all those tables. So it's not something to take lightly. So what you say has to be backed up in all of this. So if anybody can live there, and it's an opportunity for anyone, you're going to have a real impact on the critical need for affordable, attainable housing in Larimer County. Both things can't be true, because many of the people that need that are the people that work as civil servants, as firefighters, as deputies, as teachers, as CNAs, and all of that. They are going to be traveling those roads to their jobs in order to pay the rent to live at this place. That puts more impact on the roads, more transportation impact.
So, are you?
Yep. So, do you tell me how I'm not lining that up right, please?
So it's not an either or. I think it's a false binary, right? There are people that are going to be part of the workforce housing, the senior housing. They're going to be there most of the time. But I work from home. I don't just never leave my home, right? There's also a component of people who will be traveling for work. That is also true. But I think if you look at the traffic study, yes, there will be an increase in traffic. I'm not saying there won't. But the level of service that road can provide, we're not even going to come close to needing to expand that road. So that's also true. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but what I will push back on you on is that number of trips per day also dictates the maintenance of that road and how often it needs to be maintained and how often it comes down. And that bears on every taxpayer in Larimer County, which is the responsibility that we have up here when we're looking at a whole project.
Absolutely, you do. Yes. Which I would just counterbalance that with the economic benefits that this project is going to bring, and acknowledging the all the building permit and all the fees that we're going to pay, and the road construction and maintenance fees we're also going to pay when it comes time to pull construction permits.
And I understand that, but most of what you just listed out is one-time fees, and we have to look at something beyond one day, right? We're looking at to the point of the comprehensive plan. That's a very long vision, and it's designed to advise us as we look at applications such as yours to see how does this fit into that vision, and what you're offering, does that mitigate where you fall short, right? And so some permits and stuff, while significant in the moment, in the long term, 20 years from now, nobody cares about that part.
And I think your point is well made, but you must also factor into the consideration the long-term generational economic revenue this is going to drive.
Potentially.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's the first of its kind, correct?
Absolutely.
So potentially, because we don't have data to say this is definitely how it's going to happen.
But if it doesn't work, then the density and the people won't be there.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I ask staff a question? It's been interesting because I have now gotten a better understanding of the interaction between the applicant's project and the Sunrise project, and how really one is dependent upon the other, it appears. So the question I have is, why couldn't the Sunrise development, in essence, expand to encompass a lot of what the applicant wants to do?
So I believe, and Director Everett can correct me, the Sunrise Ranch was approved through a special review for their master plan, so they'd have to amend that special review in order to expand additional operations.
And if I may, Commissioner Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director, the Sunrise Ranch is on an entirely separate property. I think there's similar ownership or maybe same ownership on the two separate properties, but it would not be uncommon for a property owner to sell their property to another developer to then make their own proposal, which is what's happening here.
Well, I understand that, but we're talking about sharing the sanitation system, the water system, whatever goes on at one event center to the other event center. So I think it's not as clear cut as I think some people want to make it. I think it's far more interconnected than at first blush. The other question is, can someone tell me, just because I didn't realize this, can someone tell me if I'm looking at this proposed project, how much higher is the water tower or water tank that's being proposed?
In just feet, it's just higher. It's going to be to the west in the hillside and probably 300 foot higher than the area that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Slutsky, and then I'm going to move to public comment.
Okay. I have a question about the senior living center. Who wants to answer that? But my question is when you say blue zone community, that's what you're talking about. Just so I can be, it can be clear. That's what you're talking about. This is homes for people that are retired, apartments. Is that correct?
Yes, in the apartment building, the senior apartment oriented building that's part of the campus infrastructure there, that would be for folks, we believe, like 55 and up. And it's a blue zone inspired project. So because this is a living laboratory for lifelong community, that's really where we're trying to go with this. We're going to try to use blue zone principles, which, if you're familiar with blue zones around the world, that's the area where people have a tendency to live well past 100 and are very happy and healthy and living a very vibrant life. So we think the people that will be attracted to want to come here will want to participate in that program and be interested in seeing what it's like to live in a community where people are very connected with each other, where the programs are oriented around health and wellness and living your best life.
That's fine. That answers that part of my question. I know you said this. How many units are you talking about?
Was it? I want to say around 120 to 130 or so in that building.
Do you have any kind of research, any studies that indicate that there are people willing to live? This is kind of far out off the beaten path, and I just want to know, that's a lot of homes, and
yeah,
appreciate that.
There's a tremendous demand for this kind of housing, and we think there's a very built-in demand for, there's a lot of baby boomers. I guess I'm one of those who are of a little bit older age, who are looking for a different kind of living environment than maybe what you might find in a more traditional extended senior community where you go from independent to assisted to nursing care. We're not going to have that. We're going to try to stay with very independent and try to promote these blue zone things. And we think there's a big demand for it.
But you didn't answer my question. Do you know there's demand for your location? Do you know that people will be willing to move to, happen to Masonville.
We have not yet tested that, to be honest, but I am 100% confident that we'll have a full building in 2 weeks from when we make an announcement. It'll be that unique.
And if that doesn't happen, you could always repurpose those buildings for just regular rentals. Is that correct?
Certainly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, that's what I got. Thank you.
Okay. So we're not going to open the public hearing portion of this item. Commenters are allowed to provide 3 minutes to provide, or you're allowed 3 minutes to provide testimony on this item. I will ask that you limit your comments to what was presented tonight, as we had a robust public comment the last portion of this hearing. Don't feel like you need to repeat one another. If you support what somebody else said, I want to hear from you. We all want to hear from you. Please come to the podium, introduce yourself. Please spell your last name if it's difficult to pronounce for the record, and then provide us with your comment or just say you agree with the person before you. And we have a list of people who signed up. Okay, so I will let you call those on up.
We are going to begin with Chad Bergenheyer, followed by Tond Hanlon, Addie Fayram, and Tim Bowling. Please.
Thanks, Commissioners. Chad Bergenheyer, B is boy, IRGENHEIER. Before my time starts, I'd like to make a proposal to the Commissioner Board, if that's possible.
Go ahead.
I have my staff here, my technical staff here. Seems like there's a lot of questions regarding water and the plant and the proximity and the risks that are associated with it. I understand that this isn't a normal situation, and the fact that we are a government entity representing 80,000 people with our drinking water, and so I would like to propose that you give us an opportunity as a team to answer any questions.
Here's the tightrope I walk here, is that all referral agencies get an opportunity to submit comment, right? You just also happen to be an adjacent property owner as well.
We are, but we are also a government, right? Representing 80,000 people.
Typically, the referral agencies are almost always governments, right? Whether it's the fire authority, the city of Loveland. If we're up north, it could be the town of Wellington, the city of Fort Collins. Like, this is very normal. It's difficult for me to go outside the typical process. So this is what I'm going to say to you. You've heard a lot of these questions. What we do here tonight is a recommendation for approval or denial. But then it goes in front of the county commissioners. And so I would suggest, one, that you submit answers to all the things that you've heard tonight and anything you want addressed. And two, you can approach the chair of the Board of County Commissioners and ask for an opportunity to be able to answer questions in real time.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Now you can start with your public comment.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to start off and address. Well, first off, I'd like to thank and to reaffirm that the City of Loveland concurs with the county's development services team in recommending denial to the county commissioners. Next, I would like to address some of the comments made by the applicant's legal counsel from the previous meeting. There was two times from the previous meeting where it was noted that the City of Loveland did not want to coordinate or meet with any of the staff from the applicant. When in fact, city technical staff first met with TSD on November 5th, 2025 at their request. And then a second meeting on March 12th, 2026, also requested by the applicant, included our Director of Utilities and our city legal staff, along with TST and the applicant's legal representatives. No additional meetings were requested until after the last hearing, where we did meet. Excuse me. I'd also like to, talk about the accusation of us during the previous meeting of us saying that we were going to sue That was never ever mentioned in the meeting in the previous meeting. Also, I'd kind of like to squash the idea of this reservoir expansion. Just for clarity, that study went out. The reason they're aware of it is because we coordinated with them back in 2021 with a study. That reservoir expansion gives us about 500 to 600 acre feet, which is not much. Just for perspective, we're involved in Chimney Hollow right now, which gives us 10,000 acre feet. And so that firming doesn't give us much. Plus, there's another option of us to berm up versus flooding a part of that property. And so I wanted to kind of squash that idea as well. A compromise was presented to the applicant at the July 10th meeting, which involved relocating the proposed development and rezoning to the north of the property, outside of the reservoir's watershed. This approach would preserve the existing zoning within the watershed and shift the planned 70% open space to the southern portion of the property, where it would better support long-term source water protection goals. Next, I want to emphasize the city's Loveland strongly supports both affordable housing and economic development. These are priorities we work towards every day. However, they must be balanced with the responsibility to safeguard essential public resources. Dense housing developments like the one proposed can be valuable, but they are much more appropriate in areas closer to urban services and further from sensitive infrastructure such as Green Ridge Glade Reservoir. Protecting drinking water is a fundamental public responsibility, and once that protection is compromised, the damage is extremely difficult and costly to undo. It's important to recognize that decisions before it carries along long-lasting, irreversible consequences.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Todd Hanlon, followed by Andy Fayram.
Thank you, Commissioners. Todd Hanlon, Hanlin, Water Resource Manager, City of Loveland. Yeah, it's challenging, right, to try to address all of the misrepresentations regarding the City of Loveland, regarding our technical approach, regarding what we have said, regarding the meetings in 3 minutes. But I'll do my best. It's been inferred that we somehow have not objected to the TST report, that we maybe find it compelling in some way, and that is not the truth. We have submitted a rebuttal report to kind of head off those assertions. We went through a very lengthy explanation with the TST engineers at our meeting about why their report was not compelling and did not address our concerns. Secondly, I want to suggest that we certainly support the county staff in their finding. We agree the development does not or does conflict with Larimer County development codes and regulations. It conflicts with our source water protection plan. It conflicts with the recently completed Larimer County Water Master Plan, and it conflicts with our technical opinions in terms of the importance of safeguarding drinking water supplies. In light of all of these objections, it seems as though you would need compelling evidence that this particular development is needed in this particular location to overcome all of these hurdles. We support this development. We think it's a great idea. There's many other places it could be done. There's only one place where it should not be done, and adjacent to our reservoir is one of those. So it's come up in questions a couple of times about how the rezoning would stay with the land, how it would be a perpetual, and how it could not be reversed. And that exactly highlights our concerns with this. We are somewhat in the forever business. If this rezoning is allowed, then in our minds it'll be allowed forever. It will always be a problem that succeeding generations of water engineers that the city of Loveland will have to deal with. It will always present ongoing risks and dangers to our drinking water supplies. It's why we are so adamant that it cannot be in the locations that it is proposed. Of those locations, only the small part that drains into our reservoir is of our concern. The other northern part that drains away from us is much, much less of a concern.
I think your time is up, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Andy Favrum, followed by Tim Bowling.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Andy Fayram, F-A-Y-R-A-M. I'm with Loveland Utilities. I'm the Source Water Program Coordinator. And I'm just going to read this because I only have 3 minutes. So as the Source Water Coordinator, I basically do 3 things. I try to help fix known issues. I try to prevent issues from becoming worse. And I try to reduce risk to the extent possible to drinking water and source water resources. I know risk has been mentioned several times, and that's sort of my job. In general, we're fortunate Green Ridge Glade Reservoir has good water quality, but it does have some challenges, and assimilative capacity in some cases is not very great. So I'm just going to talk about two of those quick. One is algae and phosphorus. The reservoir already requires active monitoring and management for algae-related concerns. We have actively worked to manage those algal blooms associated with nutrient loading, including installing a mixing technology in 2017, and more recently, as of 2 months ago, installed a hypolimitic oxygenation system to reduce the phosphorus concentrations in the reservoir. Now, these have worked, and however, phosphorus is associated with development. It doesn't matter the magnitude, it always increases. And we're concerned, or I'm concerned, that any development such as this, particularly adjacent to the reservoir, will act to offset these gains that we've made. A more acute concern is CECs, or contaminants of emerging concern. These are a group of chemicals and compounds that are usually of health risk. They are always developed by humans. They're not naturally occurring. They increase in number every day. They are measured in parts per trillion, which is a tough one because I actually struggle to see what that is. But basically, I looked this up. It's 6 inches to the distance to the sun is 1 part per trillion. So some of these contaminants of emerging concern are measured at that scale. For example, I've heard of PFAS. One of the PFAS compounds is PFOA, and its EPA health regulation standard is 4 parts per trillion. So this much to the sun. We've measured PFAS throughout our systems, and we are below that. But we have also measured in Hansen Feeder Canal, which fills up Green Ridge Glade Reservoir, at 2.6 parts per trillion. So it's below. PFAS are fine. We're below the health standard. Everything's healthy. Everything's good, except this much to the sun compared to this much to the sun is not very much. And so any development or additional contributions of development, which is associated with CECs, CECs come from car tires, they come from subway wrappers, they come with all kinds of different things you wouldn't even think about. So anything that we do to increase that, particularly adjacent to our reservoir, is going to increase that risk, and I would prefer not to have that. Along with that, in the event of a catastrophic flood, basically anything you put, like those things inside the watershed, will end up in the reservoir or the river eventually. So the more things you put in the watershed, the more stuff ends up in the river and the watershed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bowling is up next, followed by Travis Hawes.
Good evening. I'm Tim Bowling. That's B-O-H-L-I-N-G. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for having us here tonight. My comments are focused on water quality, source water protection, and particularly Green Ridge Glade Reservoir. That's our focused area of our discussion tonight. Green Ridge Glade Reservoir is Loveland's primary drinking water resource. It's our only primary reservoir, our only drinking water reservoir that we own and control. It serves more than 80,000 residents in Loveland and Larimer County. Our concern is not with the applicant's mission or their development itself. It's particularly the rezoning and what could come with the rezoning. Loveland has intentionally protected its drinking water for more than 130 years in this location. Our original intake at Chastain's Grove Water Treatment Plant, which you see just to the south of this development, was sited at its location in 1887, and it specifically noted that it was sited because it was free of contamination and upstream of most development. Now, that's something that we've tried to be the stewards of as we've continued on our utilities mission over the years. Greenwich Glade Reservoir was constructed in 1979, and it was sited in this location for a similar reason. It was upstream of most development, and we want to continue that if we can. We have our source water protection plan, which you've heard about tonight, and our source water protection plan focuses on some primary elements. That's susceptibility, proximity, contaminant pathways, and response time. Proximity matters because contaminants released near the reservoir have much less travel time, less dilution, less attenuation, and less time for response before it reaches our treatment plant and ultimately to our residents and our customers. The proposed development is not miles upstream like you've seen other discussions here tonight. This is located 250 feet away from our reservoir. So it is very, very close. That limited separation is a major concern if stormwater, wastewater, nutrients, fuel, chemicals, other contaminants enter our reservoir. There's no time for us to respond to that, unlike our other sources that we have. And this isn't one just small use near the reservoir. This rezoning will allow concentrated residential, lodging, commercial, roads, parking, wastewater infrastructure, stormwater, and human activity immediately adjacent to a drinking water reservoir. BMPs and engineering controls can reduce risk, but they don't eliminate risk. And we're here for public health and safety and risk elimination. And so that's what we are concerned with tonight. The applicant's report that we reviewed relies heavily on wastewater infrastructure, BMPs being developed to manage this risk. These systems can work, but it's important to note they require proper operation and ongoing design and ongoing maintenance. The existing Sunrise Ranch wastewater treatment plant has had numerous Colorado Department of Public Health violations since 2017. 11 were on record. These include significant violations of nutrients over their permit limits, misreporting issues, non-compliance issues. Now, we're not insinuating that this will happen with the new development, but what we're trying to highlight here is that BMPs can fail, and risk reduction doesn't eliminate risk, and that is our concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Travis Hawes will be followed by Robert Howe.
Good evening. Travis Hawes. I'm part of the LifeQuest development team, so obviously standing in favor of the application and the rezone. As a former planning commissioner for the town of Windsor, I understand what you're facing. There were a number of rezoning applications that came through, and obviously relied upon staff to do their due diligence, to look at codes and land use and so forth. But I learned quickly that my role was also to look at the expanded benefits and needs of the community, and the opportunity for smart growth for Windsor and the pressures that it put on the growing community. I appreciate the questions that you're asking, and let's call it a fiduciary responsibility that you have for the citizens of Larimer County here to look at the risks. But I would offer that you're balancing imminent and realistic risks with the overall benefits that this presents. 500-year floods, wildfires, traffic, those are valid questions, but need to be framed within the context of approving other developments, houses built in the mountains, traffic up and down 34 to Estes Park. There's always risks. And this project actually does more to mitigate risks and provide for a better use of land than this current uses. If, in fact, some of the concerns about the existing wastewater treatment are true, I'm not sure that they are, this upgrade is going to bring it to the top level of standards. It will improve everything around. So the adage of tides floating all boats applies here in terms of housing, in terms of infrastructure, traffic, and so forth. I just want to appeal to the higher spirit in us. This project, there is no other like it. A veteran team of experts who have worked on extraordinary projects worldwide have come together here to design a prototype learning and living campus and retreat center, a capstone of their own careers. We need this project. A declining society needs this. Our young people are wandering and wondering, and many of our elderly are listless. LifeQuest provides a remedy for this. Please don't get tripped up by codes and infrastructure and traffic and water concerns. There's plenty of opportunity to check those along the way in development. So I would ask that you vote in approval of this. Let's make this happen. Let's go through a thorough process of making sure it is developed appropriately and smartly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Robert Howe will be followed by Christina Minihan.
Thank you. Robert Howard, HAU. I live in the Valley. I want you to look at me as someone are good cops. I'm the bad cop. I've been through this process before, representing landowners on 392 10 years ago. This is a huge project, and like Travis said, to get a handle on this is really challenging kind of thing. So I say to you, you're doing a great job, but you're not there yet. Come to the commissioners. I intend to fill this room overflowing with people who have got 55 letters of saying, I have studied this thoroughly. The first one visited me tonight, Wade Troxel, former mayor, says, great communities don't happen. They're planned, they're intentional. Second one, Doug Hutchinson, he supports this. Larry Kendall, there is a whole list of people we've gone to and say, hey, what do you think about this? They've spent a lot of time. And to your question, Mr. Weggs, there is a huge kind of need out there for people to have places to come to here. So my job is to bring to the commissioners, you have your job, I have mine. I'm going to bring and fill this room, and I think personally there's actionable kind of things that have happened with your planning staff that I think need to be taken a look at. We hired the same firm that represents us 10 years ago with Fort Collins and Windsor, and when they came, they did their study, and the lady said, boom, here's your book. We're going to go take a closer look at this. I don't want to go there, but that's where I'm going. So look at me as the bad cop, because this is too good to bypass. The citizens get wind that we bypass this thing. There's going to be hell to pay when everybody involved with this says, no, we don't want to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just as a reminder, I would ask to keep our comments to the issue at hand and not to attack staff. Thank you.
That was not an attack, ma'am. That's just fact.
Thank you, sir.
Hello again, I'm Christina Minahan. I am a professor at Colorado State University and very thankful to speak tonight, so thank you so much.
You bet. Can you step a little closer so we can hear you just a little better? Thank you.
Hi. I'm not on teacher mode, but I'll get there. Still summer. We, as faculty at CSU in the Department of Human Dimensions and Natural Resources, and also working closely with hospitality and event planning, we are so excited about this idea. We foresee many collaboration opportunities with our students. We've been blessed to get to know Mr. Goodman and some of his team recently, but Mr. Goodman has come for several years. He has an exceptional rapport on campus. So students have been very motivated and eager to graduate and have possible great opportunities. And this project would open the doors for many students for jobs, internships, site visits. So we're excited from the educational perspective, not only for job opportunities, but hey, when I retire, you got a renter. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm a teacher. I'd live there if I needed a place to rent. I think the Blue Zone is really interesting. All of our students that are in my classes, I had 200 students last semester, so I got to know many bright minds that are younger, and they're so excited about wellness, health, blue zones, but not only excited about this idea and to one day become a potential centenarian, but also to work with them. So I think even outside of the classroom, to be able to get to know our elders in a smaller community would be really informative and exciting. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Patrick Padden, followed by Jane and Trina.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a question, like from a planning perspective, just like philosophically. Is it inevitable that development contaminates water and increases fire? Is it? You nod yes, and what a shame! Like we're failing as humans if we can't do better, right? Like agriculture and residential development and logging are the three leading causes of species loss. And, our Loveland folks are saying inevitably there's an increase in phosphorus that's coming out of development. Inevitably there's a fire hazard through development. So my question isn't so much specific to this property, but it's as a philosophy, do we just think we do less bad as developers? Is that the goal, is to do as little bad as possible? Or are there some solutions that actually go the opposite direction? Make the land better, make more species, make cleaner water because humans are there. And if there's not, why not? And shouldn't we try? Like, shouldn't we really find a way not to put phosphorus in the water? Because we're upstream of everybody. Here, we're in Colorado. We should set a precedent for how we treat water. Whether this development is built near this reservoir or not, wherever it gets built, it's going to be in relationship with somebody's drinking water. And so my proposal or my suggestion is, let's try to make a development project that surpasses all of the standards that make us do just less bad, and have something to point to that says, hey, this is how Larimer County develops. And so I guess the idea would be to work together with Loveland to say, hey, these BMPs are built in a way that don't fail. We can calculate the exact percentage of water coming off. Right? It's a small area. It's a unique spot. Yeah. So it's a unique spot because it's a high point of a valley. So if you imagine my shoulder and neck are the valley, there's a watershed that runs up towards the front and towards the back as well. And it's a very unique property because the effluent, the poop and pee, gets treated in one direction completely opposite of the effluent for that would ever drain into the space. The stormwater goes towards the reservoir, but the effluent goes a completely different direction. When we develop, we have more hardscape, which means more water gets concentrated in certain areas. But as a permaculturist and agriculturist, that's a good thing. We can make use of rain gardens and create more biodiversity by putting in guilds of trees and plants that work together, utilizing the water that falls on the property, cleans it. Oh, I'm 22 seconds over, I'm sorry. I think that we can make this property and all work together in the room to show humanity how to develop in a good way. I'll yield. Thanks.
Thank you.
We have Jane Antorini.
Thanks. She's left.
She's left, okay. Brian Mullen, please.
Good evening. My name is Brian Mullen, B-R-I-A-N.
Mullen. I am not a public speaker. But I will let you know that we do one thing that hasn't been brought up, and I think it was very interesting to use gum wrappers and tires. Because we haven't talked about the dilly diversion off of the Big Thompson River that goes into their reservoir. We use different avenues, but the dilly goes into the Hanson Feeder Canal. Now, from what I understand, this dilly diversion is downstream of Drake. So everything from Drake to Estes, all the way up Glen Haven Canyon to the Dunraven, everything that comes into that water diversion has the opportunity to be in the reservoir that they're concerned about. So what little drop in the bucket does this potential community advancement have that would even be even close to what a car accident, one car accident above that diversion that leads whatever chemicals, whatever fluids from vehicles, or whatever that would go into the reservoir compared to what little impact that we might even be considering to be important at this point in time. So I don't know why they don't take that diversion possibility into.
Sir, I'm sorry. We got to speak into the microphone because it's being recorded.
Sorry. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up the fact that we do get water off the Big Thompson River. It is downstream of Drake, and anything that in that whole valley, from the housing to the roads, everything has the possibility going into that reservoir, and it hasn't really been addressed in this conversation as a concern as much as what this development is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, we have reached the end of our sign-up list. May I ask if anyone online would like to speak?
Yes, please.
If anyone online would like to speak at this time on this issue, please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. For those in the audience, we will have another chance, okay? So we do have one hand raised. Ooh. Misty, do you still want to speak?
Yes, please. I just, real quick, Misty Forbes, I live in Loveland. I would be totally supportive of this in any way, shape, or form. That's all.
Thank you, Misty. Would anyone else online like to speak? Please use the raise your hand function or *9 now. No more hands are raised at this time.
Thank you. If there's anyone else here in person that would like to speak that has not already spoken, please make your way to the podium, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
So my name is Sam Solt, S-O-L-T. I have no technical interest in this project, but what I would like to do is share my opinion as somebody who lived in the valley. 1974, we built a house on 7400 Sunrise Ridge. Our kids grew up in the valley. They went to the Big T, graduated from the Big T school. We rode our horses through this property for over 25 years. So I'm asking myself, how would this project complement my neighborhood? And I can tell you that it would be a blessing, I think, as I understand it, and I've studied it. So I think it, all technical considerations aside, I think it could evolve to be a wonderful complement to the valley. And interestingly, you only have one chance to do this. And so this rezoning is important in that point of view. And so I realize from your point of view, it's a big deal. I've sat on the commission, I have chaired the City of Fort Collins Economic Development Commission for 6 years, and we made some pretty heavy-duty decisions to pass on to the City Council. So it is a big deal, and I respect what you have to do in the rezoning is a big deal, but sometimes you just have to buy into the vision. And I think this is a worthy vision to take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here in the audience? Please come up to the podium, state your name for the record, spell your last name if it's difficult, and then you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners and staff. My name is Dr. Sharon Montes, Montes. Let's see if I can do this without. There we go. Briefly, I grew up on a small farm between Loveland and Fort Collins. Ancestors were farmers and social workers. So I'm a holistic physician. So the idea of stewardship and caring for the land as a foundation for health is woven into my essence. And I currently am living on the Sunrise Ranch, and I'd like to give our listeners a context of what Eden Valley is. Currently, there are 2 campuses, wellness communities, that are stewarding most of the land. So we've got the Seventh-day Adventist, the people who are popularizing the blue zones. And then we've got the Emissaries of Divine Light and Sunrise Ranch. Both of these campuses have local and global impact and connection. What we're looking at for LifeQuest is a beautiful harmonization of evolving 21st century stewardship of the land. We keep talking about development, but woven into the intention is to take harmony, and I really want to emphasize what Patrick said. We've got the 21st century technology to create something where humans are living in harmony with the land and with the ecosystem. So as I have been listening from the very beginning, the idea of creating a model of what human, bird, land interaction can be as a possibility, I think has value. And I think that's it. Thank you for your consideration of another way of stewarding a really beautiful, sacred part of northern Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Frank Vaught, V-A-U-G-H-T. I'm a retired architect and land planner that has practiced in Larimer County for 50 years. I moved here in 1971, was licensed in 1974. I've master planned hundreds of communities in this region. I'm so impressed at what I see with LifeQuest proposal. It seems to be all about nature and about trails and about lifestyle and about stargazing and about interaction of people and about gardening. What can be so challenging and wrong about supporting something like that? I know that there are a lot of questions that have to be answered. I was in the business for many years. This is the beginning. And those answers come forward as the project goes through your process. You've got talented people on your staff that make sure that those those questions are answered appropriately. So I would hope that you could see in your minds to see the opportunity to approve this this evening and pass it on to the county commissioners for their review. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Come on up.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name's Keahi Eva, E-W-A, like Hawaii. I've been living at Sunrise Ranch since 2012, been directly part of the leadership of it since 2013. I created and stepped into the role of Director of Operations in 2017 until 2024. So I live and breathe Sunrise Ranch. So I know its passion to steward the land, to bring spirit through it. What Patrick and Dr. Montes shared about new technology, I want to hark back to a question and Ways asked earlier. You have buildings. I think you did too, Commissioner. Why aren't you using the buildings and everything you have now? New technology. The community started building in the 70s before permitting. I have had the opportunity to deal with the county permitting requirements for years, and I will say that this project will use updated technology, meet permits from the get-go in a new and fresh way with the spirit of the organization behind it, and I'm just really proud of that. Another thing I wanted to point to is that 11 we had 11 negative reports, negative test results from our water treatment plant since 2017. From 2017 to 2026, we've had 11. I want to say there's been more. I've looked at those reports over the years, and we meet everything as soon as possible. The direct discharge, the subcontractor that manages it, I don't. Our team doesn't have that expertise or certifications and trainings, but I know I can stand behind that team. And Brian Mullen is part of the maintenance team, and I'm proud of my team. And we meet those things. There are more than just 11. And I want to say that kind of level of care and passion will continue throughout this project. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, we do have one person online.
Okay.
Helena Karchi, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Helena Karcher, Karchere. Good evening. I'm here to support the rezoning request, and I'd like to focus on a few benefits I see that the project will bring to the county. I think we know that across our country we're facing a loneliness epidemic. About 1 in 3 Americans report usually or always feeling lonely. And here in Colorado, I've been really inspired by the Belonging Colorado initiative, and they're trying to address this because they found that only 53% of Coloradans report feeling a strong sense of belonging in their local community. Larimer County has already recognized that social isolation is a public health issue. The Office on Aging's planning documents emphasize that healthy aging is about a lot more than healthcare. So they're highlighting the importance of lifelong learning, recreation, volunteer opportunities, social engagement, and neighborhood connection, because isolation is linked to higher rates of depression and falls in hospitalization and cognitive decline. And at the same time, Larimer County faces a shortage of what planners are calling the missing middle, housing for older adults. Too often, the only choices are staying in a home that no longer fits their needs or moving into assisted living. So there's just not enough options in between. So I really appreciate about this proposal that it addresses both of those challenges and others together. It creates housing and also opportunities for people to connect through workshops, retreats, learning, and community. And it really acknowledges that healthy community isn't just about having a roof over your head, but about places where people can be learning and belonging together, which I just think we're going to need more and more of as our population ages. And I think Sunrise Ranch is the ideal place for this. This is a place that has for decades been completely consumed with and dedicated to stewarding the land responsibly and being pioneers in sustainability, in permaculture and agriculture, and educating people from all over the world in personal growth and wellness. And to have Larimer County put on the map even more because of building out a world-class location like this, I think can only benefit the economy and help small businesses, help the workforce, and just has so many benefits. So I really encourage you to, yes, make note of all the things that are going to need to be addressed, all the written agreements, all the water protocols, et cetera, as this continues, but to allow for this rezoning to happen so that this has an opportunity to become a reality. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, the public hearing is now closed. And so I think what I'd like to do right now is maybe take 5 minutes for anyone that needs to use the facilities or any of that. And when we come back, Then the applicant will have 5 minutes to present any rebuttal based on public comment and all of that. And then we're going to move on to staff rebuttal, any few final questions, and then get to the decision making. So with that, we stand adjourned for 5 minutes. Thank you.
So I'm going to share my time with Mr. Goodman, and I will.
Okay, so you have to wait until I actually address you. Thanks. Okay, so we're back from our mini recess, and now, as I said before the recess, we're going to move back to an applicant rebuttal. You have 5 minutes for anything that you would like to address that was brought up during the public testimony. Go ahead.
So there was a lot of concerns brought up that I think can be managed and addressed by conditions of approval, and I want to offer those up to the Planning Commission. We have already offered to condition approval such that we are in substantial compliance with the TST report. We don't want to contaminate Loveland's drinking water. We don't want to provide that risk. We are happy to be put through our paces and condition approval on that. We will also agree to condition approval on agreements between Sunrise Ranch and LifeQuest in terms of infrastructure improvements. We already have an MOU. If that would put the commissioner's mind at ease, we are happy to provide those. Also in your code 661E, there is an RPD agreement that we would be required to sign and enter into. We could address a lot of these concerns in that. I also want to talk about the Loveland Water Storage Enlargement Facility report. If you look at page 25 of that report, that report isn't about eliminating risk. It never says you have to eliminate risk. It says you have to manage it. And page 25 talks about transportation and road spills, and it says the risk to their water is minor. It talks about on-site water treatment systems. The probability of impact is rare, and the risk is minor and very low. Residential practices, possible impact, but again, it says it's insignificant and low. And algae growth. We are not adding phosphorus to this load. We are not contributing to algae growth. That was their major concern. That is not a reality here. I also want to just remind the commission that there is no other location for this. That I understand that staff believes it would be better somewhere else. Nobody is coming before you with an RPD of this kind of vision. That is what a rural plan development is for areas like this. So I will cede the rest of my time, but I just implore you not to miss this opportunity. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone again for the opportunity to be in front of you, and I'll keep this very brief. I just want to tell you that our whole heart is behind this, and we want to do everything possible that we can imagine to make this a model community. It's biophilic design. It's eco-friendly. We're clustering on purpose to minimize land impacts. We're using special construction techniques that will save on waste. We're going to attempt to do everything under the sun we can think of to try to be a wonderful citizen and a good steward of this land. And on top of that, we're going to build an infrastructure and an ecosystem, a culture, if you will, and this campus that is second to none around the country. We have an unbelievable team that is focused on making this an exceptional gem project for Larimer County. We would not be here if we did not believe we were going to do something absolutely wonderful with this. Absolutely wonderful. There's always going to be some concerns. There's never one site in the whole world that's 100% perfect. There's always the slightest risk that, something could happen, but there's risk in every bit of life. And we will do every single thing we can think of to do best practices, to even go beyond best practices, to come up with new innovative ideas. And we're happy to work with the folks at the City of Loveland to figure out exactly what those can be. And that will happen when we get a little further along in the process. If we get an approval for this RPD, this rural plan development, we think we fit it perfectly. Staff suggested it to us the first day we met them, that this would be the right venue to go down if we had a project of this type. And so we feel confident that it's the perfect project at the perfect time in the exact right space. We're surrounded by campuses who all believe in these kinds of ideas, and we can make something really special here. It is one chance. This doesn't belong next to a city. It needs to be in a rural environment where nature and those night skies and wildlife and orchards and all of those things occur in a community of people who want to be here, because this is a new model for how to live in a flourishing way. I just want to thank you again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Staff, do you have any follow-up from public testimony or the applicant's rebuttal?
Staff does not at this time, but we're happy to answer any questions should any of the commissioners have any.
Thank you. Do any questioners have any further questions of staff at this time?
I do, if that's all right.
Absolutely, Commissioner Slutsky.
Just quickly, this is a rezoning request for 235 acres or so. This is for staff, of course. And there's going to be a 70% residual. And I just want to know if that is locked down in the future. If they want to expand, can they go into that 70% without approval?
So if the rezone is approved, and what this is, a lot of stuff is shown as a concept plan, it's, a high level conceptual plan only. If it is approved, any technical or, planning review processes we need, if there's any residual land that would be required, which I'm not sure at this point, but the residual land would need to be remained undeveloped and just used as ag use, if that is required.
And if the Planning Commission has concerns about them not keeping the 70% residual, I would recommend that be a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Slutsky?
That's it.
Okay. So, without any further questions from the commissioners, we're going to move into deliberations. Do any of the commissioners have any comments they wish to share?
Go ahead, you go first.
Oh, you want me to go first this time?
Keep it short, though.
Okay. I'd never go first. I'd go first.
Yeah, go first.
So, let me just start with, I love great creative ideas. And I think what you're trying to do here is remarkable and it's interesting and it definitely is unique. And I think if we don't think outside the box, we're going to keep doing the same things we always do. So I think I should start with that. And I want to thank everybody who has taken their time to come out here both last month and this month and everything that you've done. I want to thank staff and I want to thank the City of Loveland staff. I think everyone has a real vested interest in this. As a planning commissioner, my job is to look at the criteria, be advised by the comprehensive plan, which is approved by the planning commission. There's one of those unique jobs that does fall on this particular board, and take it all in total. And I have to look for the immediate, down the road, and long into the future as I apply all of this to give consideration. And with everything that we've talked about, when I get back down to basics, a couple things stand out to me. I don't think it fits the current surrounding areas. I think if this were a comprehensive plan change first before rezone, then this becomes a different conversation. The last month, we talked a lot about how you all thought this should be a rural center designation, but it's not. And that's part of the advisory that we're looking at when we're looking at the whole picture. In addition, I think the concerns brought on by property owners are always given weight, whether that is the City of Loveland or John Smith Rancher. Every property owner has property rights for their own property and they have a voice in this process. In this particular case, I think the location of where you want to do the development, the risk and the impact to your adjacent property neighbor far outweighs any demonstrated benefit. I think, as I said, the program is great, but it potentially increase transportation road impacts, which is the opposite of what you said. It does not provide a significant opportunity to change the housing landscape overall. And I'm concerned about the infrastructure between Sunrise Ranch and this. And so for those reasons, I am not going to be able to recommend approval. And I'm really sorry to say that, but I don't see how I can follow the responsibilities of this job and give it an approval. Commissioner King?
I'll be pretty quick because I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Cholet said. I think that I also think that it's a really wonderful vision, and I hope that you guys can make it work. I think that a thing that concerns me is that a lot of the evidence that you provided is either speculative or it often errs on the lower end of threats. For example, with the traffic, when I look through the traffic, there are some of the assumptions that are made on trips per day and density of people in the area that could be true, but it is leaning on the sparser end of those trips. And I feel like that has been repeated multiple times in the mitigation plans, just that you're hoping for the best and thinking that you can engineer your way out of it. And I that could be so, but I think that in good consciousness, for all the reasons that Commissioner Cholet said, we have to think about the future, and I don't think that I can, in good conscience, vote for it.
Commissioner Wise?
Well, while I think it's important to consider what adjacent landowners' concerns are, as I've said, I mean, the whole water issue, if that was what was before us, then I'd have all kinds of questions. And as staff knows, this is not the first time. I wish some of the technical things that go in after a potential approval were things that I would actually like to hear right up front versus after the fact, because I think that would go a long way to maybe answering other questions and giving guidance to both sides of the issue. I don't see the long-term benefit to the county. I understand the applicant's explanation of why they feel, but I see this as a community in and of itself, maybe interacting with adjacent similar types of communities. But I have a hard time seeing down the road where people in Fort Collins and things would have a lot of interaction with this. Also, I look at this, to be honest, as sprawl. Getting outside some of our more typical boundaries, and we start creating all these establishments and areas all over the place, which have to be serviced. So the whole issue of traffic, fire mitigation, all these things now is stretched out, and that costs money. And in this case now, the county potentially has to come up with the cost to try to mitigate some of these things. So for that reason, and what has already been said, I'm going to make that decision that I'm not in support of any change. I'll support staff recommendations.
Mr. Slutsky, or Commissioner Slutsky?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I really appreciate what you all have done. You have so much support. You've done so much work. It's as you said, a creative design, and it's innovative, and it deserves to be built. I just think it does. I think that you have enough support to fill all those houses. I think in my old age, maybe. Well, I guess I'm there. I would consider living out there. I have to really lean on the comprehensive plan, because that's our plan. Now, I know you pointed out to us, and of course we know that it's not regulatory, but we wrote that with a lot of input from staff and community. We spent a lot of time on it, and it is ours, and it contains the county's goals and vision, and I just really appreciate the open spaces that we have, and of course our ag land, and I don't think this is a good fit. And so with all of that said, I regret that y'all did not engage staff a little bit more, or maybe a lot more, so that we would have had a better package presented to us, and you would have had a chance to have some input from some really dedicated and professional planners that are looking out for our county's good, and I will not be voting in favor of this.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm looking for a motion.
I have just a quick question to staff.
Oh, you can ask a question real quick.
No, on your suggested motion that I see here, it ends with the word attachments underlined and then has attachment 1. Is that attachment 1 supposed to be part of the motion?
I would make the motion that we're about to share on the screen.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
There you go. Somebody want to make the motion?
I move that the Planning Commission recommends that the Board of County Commissioners deny the emissaries of Divine Light rezone file number 25-zone 3797.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Weiss,
Yes.
Slutsky,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Cholet.
Yes. Motion carries.
We're not have elections.
No, we're not. I want to thank you guys, and I know that's not the result you were looking for. Ms. Axmaker, do you want to address board elections for me, please?
Yes, it is our recommendation that we table board elections for a month and participate in that in August, if it is okay with the Planning Commission.
Any opposition? No? Okay, that would be fine. We will. Do we need to make a motion?
You do. I don't believe you need to make a motion.
We
No.
just
I just want to make sure that we're okay with it.
Okay.
And then no additional staff updates tonight.
Perfect. Then we are adjourned, friends.